Welcome. It's February 8th, 2022. I'm Joe Weston, and we're here once again with our weekly online global practice for reviving the global heart. And it's nice to we're just chatting with those who are joining in various states that we're covering in the United States, as well as different countries in Europe. So it's always great to see familiar faces, great to see new faces. As we continue our practice of and contemplations of what it means, what reviving the global heart means to us, and more importantly, who are we in that? What role can we play in that? There's many themes that I've been, many that I bring in. This idea of becoming an agent of fierce hope is one of them. What can we do to step into a deeper level of presence and connection with ourselves, others, and the planet itself? And if that's part of our makeup, feel a deeper level of fulfillment and satisfaction, knowing that we're using each moment of our precious lives, with every thought, every word, every action, that's in alignment with our highest values, and in some way contributing something beneficial to ourselves, to others, to all beings, and the planet itself. It's really simple if you think of it, that I believe this is my belief, that it's a really direct philosophy, is that if you want to live a life of purpose and fulfillment with deeper satisfaction, rewire your nervous system and your habituations so that you can really feel that the spontaneous arising of each thought, word, and action is beneficial and supports others and alleviates suffering and increases happiness and minimizes harm. I didn't invent that. That's been around for thousands and thousands of years. And what I have to offer and what we're practicing here is, how do we see it as a game? How can we like doing an inventory with all of the, how many of you remember from talks I've had, how many minutes are there in a day? Todd, you can't answer. Shelley, you can't answer. How many minutes are there in a day? Quick.
Isn't it 1440 or something like that?
Yes, exactly. It's 14.
And I did not use my calculator.
Okay. It's exactly, as long as the earth revolves around the sun as it currently does, until that changes, every day there's 1,440 minutes. So for those of you who like Excel sheets and spreadsheets and like to think in that way, you can calculate that. Like, how many minutes in that day are you feeling that are benefiting, are creating benefit in your thoughts, words, and actions to yourself, others, other beings, and the planet itself? And how much are really doing the opposite, which is generating negativity and worry and isolation and opposition and polarity, even in your thoughts, your words, and not just with your actions. And that's not to go through a very, I would say, more world religion kind of thing, where that means you have to condemn yourself and judge yourself and put labels of good and bad on it. That's not necessary. It's simply being practical. And one of the really strong ideas that I'm advocating more and more is, we all have the ideas. How can we take our ideas into action? If you remember, I did a whole series on looking at compassion in action. And my question to you, particularly those who are coming on a regular basis, is, how much are you feeling that you're integrating this practice into each moment? And I want to put it in a way that I look at history, historical perspective. And I think, it's certainly in the US, but I think, I'd be curious, Pauline, I know, has a lot of experience in the exploration of spiritual traditions and all in Europe and around the world, actually. And I know Mika does as well. But historically, the way I would see it was that the 60s and the 70s was a real sense of breaking through freedom, right? The freedom out of conformity. That the 50s and before, certainly the 50s, was a time of coming out of a world war, two world wars, in a sense, you can say, the proliferation of nuclear weapons, which basically blew our minds, literally and figuratively, Um, so what, in a sense, you could say that the way to make sense of a world that we felt like we had no more control over was to go into conformity, where all the houses, and certainly in America, they looked the same, the people dressed the same. It was very much cookie cutter, you could say. And that had its purpose. And then in the 60s and 70s was a breakthrough of that. And it caused a lot of dissonance and chaos. And it also, for the first time, allowed us to say, wow, we can do our own personal, on some level, personal growth and development. We can develop our own relationship with spirit or God or whomever. And there was an exploration of that, of really, and that's where a lot of spiritual movements came from the East into the West, and a lot of self-help, a lot of personal development work started, human development work started developing. And then the 80s for me was the period of woundology. It was like, now that we are open and we realize we can work on ourselves, we can actualize our best selves in a sense. We went through a long phase of the 80s and the 90s of realizing that to get to our best selves, we had to recognize our wounds and, in a sense, heal them, integrate them so that we can. And what I would say is that we take our wounds, and when we heal them, we actually turn them into our superpowers. It's actually in our wounding, it's where we have been wounded and harmed, that if done mindfully, that we can turn it into our superpowers. And in a sense, those superpowers be ways that we can be of service to others. Unfortunately, I feel that in the 80s and the 90s, a lot of people got stuck in that phase of woundology and just spent a lot of time continuing to work on self. And I feel that the 21st century is, okay, we've had those 30 or 40 years, certainly in countries with people who have certain level of privilege and opportunity to be exposed to those things. Now it's time to give back. And that, for me, the 21st century is, we've done the work on ourselves. We have enough work that we have done, that we've cultivated, gathering information, contemplating that information, rewiring ourselves to now actively move into the world and do the next phase of that, which is to be of service to others and to create more systems, or reframe our current world system where it shifts in a way where there's more of an equal, equitable, inclusive distribution of power, resources, information, and money, in a sense, so that people who haven't been able to cultivate their own, their best selves, gets that opportunity. For me, that feels like that's the wave of history that we've seen in the last 70 years or so. And so the question for us here is, how much are you actualizing that in a moment-to-moment way? And it's just basically going from idea to action. And I've talked about this. Many of you know I talk about this idea of skills-based learning. How do you actually learn a skill is different from just memorizing text or multiplication table. And I think that's key for this moment in history. We have all the information. I believe the amount of money and time and resources and energy we've devoted to investigating and monitoring and researching the causes of our current world problems and coming up with effective solutions, that's already there. Why aren't we implementing them? Because they're still staying up here in this kind of like idea phase. And until we understand that we have to integrate the heart and the body and connect that with the intellect, we're going to continue to remain in this phase. Like, why we have all the answers, why aren't we seeing more results? So what is it going to take for us to go from idea to action? So my question to you to contemplate and consider is this, especially for those of you who are coming on a regular basis for the last year or 2 or 3, how much of this practice is popping up for you, for instance, when you're buying milk in the supermarket, or when you're in the car and someone cuts you off, in the different ways that, and that is, and to me, that is crucial. And I don't feel like I emphasize that enough, that There's value to going to a beautiful mountain retreat center, sitting on a beautiful cushion with beautiful music, drinking your lovely tea in between sessions. That's really beautiful. And if you have the opportunity, do it. But how beneficial is that in the long run to the planet itself and all of its beings if it stays on the mountain, in a sense? And again, I'm presenting an idea again, but how much of us are really integrating that into every moment? And that's up to you. And actually, you don't have to do any of this, right? I'm just making a suggestion. However, I really feel from what I've known from those of you who come back, I feel in your hearts that a value for you on some level is service, that you keep coming back here because there's something in your heart, there's a yearning or a longing to make more meaning about what's happening on this planet now, and maybe even finding your power in that, to be of service and to have more effect in a way that is different from compassion fatigue, right? So, we're used to a pattern like, yes, I'm going to alleviate the suffering of others, which means you have to suffer too. And it has to be hard and there has to be obligation. But if we're doing these practices, compassion and action, then it's a spontaneous flow. And as we've talked with many people have talked about, there's joy in that. It can feed you energy. So in a sense, and that's the purpose of every week, we do pretty much the same practice. We add things to it because that's the rewiring, so that in the moments when you're out in the car and someone cuts you off, or you're having dinner with family members who have different political views, you can have confidence that you can call in your skills. And I think I've said that to you before. This is something that when I used to teach acting years ago, I would say to my students that there are times when you go on stage and you just are not feeling confident, and you're just having a bad day, and you still got to do that performance. And there may be times where you don't feel confident that you can make it happen, but you can have confidence in your technique. You can have confidence in your practice. And that the more you do this, there should always be a sense when I say, remember at the end, I say, let this seep into your nervous system so you can remember it. And what you're doing is that the nervous system is remembering how delicious it feels. The nervous system's remembering that level of presence and connection and balance and flow. And it's going into the different parts of the brain, particularly the limbic brain, which is more about emotion and memory. And what it's the way it works is that if it's a pleasant feeling for you, the limbic brain will remember that and lump that in information of pleasant experiences, which makes it easier to recall it. So even those of you who train with me or assist me or certified trainers, you know how much joy I get when people in a workshop have resistance. And it's not that I'm a masochist or anything like that. It brings me joy because it's fun. It's that sense of, because in a sense, because I'm activating that level of compassion, I don't take what they're doing personally. If they're triggered, or if they're acting out and they're showing resistance, what they're saying to me without saying it is, Joe, I trust you in this process so much that I'm willing to bring out some of my wounds. Please love it. I mean, that's the way I see it, is that my job and our job is to then just love it. And by loving it, we integrate it for them. We heal it for them. They have a moment where they get to see, well, I can be loved. And it's not going to go back to old patterning where I'm going to be shamed or cast out. So of course I have joy when that happens. It's my moment of service that they're asking me to look at this aspect of themselves, and I've trained myself to stay regulated, and find the joy in that, to dance with that, to help them come back to themselves. And I learn a lot from myself, and as does the group. So I just want to emphasize that. How much are you really taking the time to, when we do this practice, to trust it? The more you trust the practice, the more you're going to be able to call on it in challenging moments in your life. And how much are you actively, for instance, some of the parts of the practice, like when you are sitting with someone, a work colleague that you may have reactivity around, are you checking to see how open is your heart? 40%, 30%, 80%? How much are you checking? How safe you're feeling? How much do you have to calibrate and shift your level of your personal boundaries to create that level of safety or to open? How much are you feeling your feet on the ground, focusing in your center and your heart and connecting? These are all things that we do every week. And I'm just asking you now to begin thinking about that. Just look at it like 2022. We're now actually already more than a month into 2022. And this idea of being an agent of fierce hope, creating the environment around you for you to activate in yourself a deeper level of hope, which in a sense, I use the word infects others. Hope can become viral. And so that you're just as an agent of fierce hope, you're just creating the space and the circumstances for more hope to be ignited. And that's enough, I would say, for any of us to do at this time. If there's any way we can be of service, it can be in that way, that we take care of ourselves so that we maintain that practice of fierce hope. And then simply from that compassionate action, that spontaneous moving through the world, how you engage with the resilience of presence, awareness, balance, and flow, infecting and inspiring others to find their hope, and so on, and so on, and so on. So let's consider that as we take this into our practice. And if you have reflections on this afterwards, I'd love to hear. So once again, finding a way to sit where you are feeling, where your body can come into alignment, where your spine is straight without being rigid. Power sit. Introducing a concept for those of you who are here for the first time of connecting with your core or your center. It's a place that I would say is in your lower belly, which is about the width of 3 fingers below your navel and 1/3 of the way into the body. So if you take your fingers, if you want to place and put them together like this, put your index finger over your navel where your pinky resides. That's about the width of 3 fingers below your navel. Bring now your attention inside of your body about 1/3 of the way from the front of the body, bringing your full attention to that spot. Your center of personal power, gut wisdom, impulse, awareness. As we cultivate presence, awareness, balance, and flow, this is from here where we actually cultivate presence and awareness. Starts with your core. From your center, become aware of the parts of your body that are connecting with what you're sitting on or the ground. Feeling those spots, the surface of the body, as gravity brings it down, pressing down towards the ground, feeling that stability, training yourself to be held. No need to hold yourself up any more than is necessary. Training yourself to believe that the earth is always there to support you, hold you. Starting that process of a deeper level of connection. In fact, maybe asking the earth to rise up to meet you and hold you. And with this awareness of your contact with the ground, from your center, become aware of your physical body. And checking in with yourself from this idea to action. How much is this now a routine for you, the ease with which you can connect with your body, listen to its vocabulary and how it's communicating with you. From your center, become aware of your emotional body. What emotions are you present to without judgment, allowing all feelings to be there, allowing them to flow. From your center, become aware of your thoughts, your mental body. How are your thoughts in this moment? I just want to add something. Just take a moment now to just, without forcing your breath, simply listen to the rhythm of your breath. Let the body breathe itself. Don't impose any breath on it. Don't hold it back. So you're aware of the body breathing itself. Something I like to add as well, especially this idea of listening to the breath, the melody of the breath, and at the same time now listen to the rhythm of the heartbeat. See if you can hear both rhythms at the same time, the percussion of the heartbeat, the melody of the breath. And just like you're sitting in a concert hall or just lying in your bed listening to a great record, if you remember what records are, just listen to your own inner music. Let it inspire you, let it move you. And with this sense of, try to see if you can stay connected to your own inner music as you now, from your center and from your heart, become aware of that part of you that has connection with something larger than yourself. Could be something spiritual, humanity. And in this moment, becoming aware of what your connection is with something larger than yourself. Perhaps it has its own music and rhythm and melody. And as you bring both musics together, are they in dissonance or are they in harmony? Allowing energy to flow and emotions to flow. And always, in a sense, every time you connect with this music or that music, allowing that to move you for whatever that means for you, to be moved emotionally, to be moved physically into action. Now, continuing your awareness of yourself, feeling yourself being held by the earth, opening to something larger than yourself, your physical, emotional, mental, spiritual self. expanding that out to the edges of your personal boundaries, filling your personal space with the vibrations of your own music. From your heart and from your core. With this awareness of self, being moved by your own music, take a deep breath in. From your center and from your heart, expanding outside of your personal boundaries now. From your center and your heart, becoming aware of your surroundings. Does it have a music? And are you in dissonance or harmony with that music of your surroundings? It could be the whir of a heater, electricity, birds, silence. Its own orchestration. And with this awareness of self and your surroundings in this present moment, from your center and from your heart, take a full deep breath in into your heart. In through your nose and out through your mouth. With this awareness of self and surroundings from your center and from your heart, become aware of those in this meditation circle. Various parts of North America and Europe, maybe around the world. However you choose to do it, through the World Wide Web, connecting with those in this meditation circle. Perhaps you see us all sitting in a circle. However you visualize that, continuing to tap into your own music and opening and listening to the rhythmic, percussive, melodious music of each person in this group. And imagine as you engage like different musicians in an orchestra, tuning up to come into resonance. Perhaps we can make beautiful music together. Allowing energy to flow and emotions to flow. And with this awareness of self, surroundings, and those in this meditation circle, from your center and from your heart, take a deep breath in. With this awareness, from your expanding your sense of fierce compassion, open-heartedness, resilience, from your center and from your heart, becoming aware of all human beings, beginning with those human beings you would label loved ones. And as always, who arises in your heart? What faces do you see? Groups of people. And as you now engage with these people, can you still maintain your own sense of inner music? Breath in your heart. Can you sense their music? Is there dissonance? Is there harmony? How is your music influencing them? How might their music be influencing you? And from your center and from your heart, become aware of those human beings you would label stranger. And who arises in your heart? What faces do you see, or groups of people? How many can you hold in your heart at this moment? Does that shift your music? Does it quiet your music? Does it amplify your music? Can you come in resonance with their music? And from your center and from your heart, become aware of those human beings you would label adversary. Who arises in your heart? What faces do you see, or groups of people? Does that influence your capacity to let your music resonate? Does it change the rhythm of the breath or the percussion or the heart? What might their music be? And is there some way to find a common rhythm, some common ground, common heartbeat as a starting point for making beautiful music, even with adversaries? And just take a moment now with the whole human family in your heart, like one large orchestra, creating a reverberating heart energy, creating beautiful music together, entertaining all of the other creatures on this planet with this beautiful cacophonous resonance of music. And actually Mother Earth herself smiling with delight. She gets to decide if it's Beethoven or Led Zeppelin, it's up to her, but whatever kind of music she wants to be listening to. And with that sense of delight of Mother Earth, all creatures on this planet and human beings as well, allowing now human beings to flow into your heart, bringing your awareness back to those in this meditation circle, taking a moment to just share this cacophonous resonance of music with one another, with honor and respect and gratitude, allowing those in this meditation circle to flow into your heart as you bring your awareness back to your surroundings. Filling your surroundings with this music, surroundings flowing into your heart as you bring your awareness back to yourself. And just feeling where you are now with the rhythm of your heart beat, the rhythm of your breath. Allowing yourself to be moved, emotionally moved, moved into action. And allowing the benefits of this practice to pour into each one of your cells, enlivening all of your cells, flowing into your organs as a way to nurture you, your brain, your liver, your kidneys, your heart and your lungs, for instance. And finally, seeping into your nervous system once again as a way to remember this. Remember the feeling of this, the sensation, the experience. Something you can trust. And as a way to close this practice, let's take one final breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. Slowly open your eyes, looking around the room, shaking your body, stretch your body. So as always, we started with our motivation, we did our practice, now we have a moment to reflect. Anybody want to share anything about what I spoke about or the practice itself or anything that's on your heart at this moment?
I love to share something. I like the metaphor of the music because I try to make harmony with everyone. And it's very easy with the loved ones because they have the same rhythm and the same way of making music as I am. When I tuned into the adversary, what's the next?
Strangers.
The strangers, I stopped making music because first I had to listen to them. What's their music? Oh, well, oh, that's quite a different rhythm. And it took a while before I could join them. And with the adversaries, that took even more time because I thought, oh, whoa, that's music I don't like. So I want to close. And I thought, no, just listen. Maybe I can start liking it because there's a whole lot of new music, but even when you have children, then I think, oh, I don't like that. And when you heard it 20 times, you say, oh, well, I remember it, I recognize it. It's not that bad as I thought in the beginning. So I stopped making music to start to listen to them. And I think, well, that's in the normal world also a good way to start, I think.
Beautiful. Beautiful. That is actually the purpose of it. So I'm glad you said that. It helps you deepen your own listening. And that if you really want to find reconciliation or healing or collaboration, you know, if everyone's playing their own, if one's doing Beethoven, the other one Led Zeppelin, and trying to play together, it could be interesting, but
yes,
may not. So yeah, it's a way of cultivating another a more subtle, deeper listening. Thank you. Yeah, beautiful.
Joe, I'm realizing that the film I saw called Who We Are, A Chronicle of Racism in America, which is really quite wonderfully done, is all about putting Joe Weston's ingredients to work. I hadn't really thought about the way Jeffrey Robinson delivered the message. But what he's done in the 2 hours that he's provided, what looks like a TED talk, but is absolutely not. It is delivered in the Joe Weston flow and is open in a way that invites the resistance to give in. And I hadn't really thought about it until just now. It would be so wonderful if people in this group felt like going to see it. I'm sure that it could be streamed for those of you who are not in the States. It is not called a history of racism. It's called a chronicle of racism, which is about something different. And the melding of his voice and his movement back and forth in the auditorium with the visual material that he presents is absolutely about being open and in no way doing what so many of these talks do, which is be in your face. So thank you, Joe, for that insight. I hadn't been able to articulate the way the message, the way the speaker delivered the message made all the difference.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the tip. I'm going to look at it. And I want to know who this Joe Weston character is you keep talking about.
Well, Jeffrey Robinson is your counterpart.
I'll check him out. I'll check him out. Thank you. Someone wants to share. I don't need to give permission. If you want to share, just share.
Yes, I'd like to share. I'm thinking of earlier when Joe talked about how we deal with the person who cuts us off in traffic. And of course, this happens quite a bit depending on where you're going and whatnot. I sometimes forgive the person instantly, and I realize possibly this person saved my life, because had that person not cut me off, I would have been in a different place in a future time, and it may have been lethal. And I let it go that way.
A beautiful teaching. Yeah. I don't know if I can get to patience, but I can get to the other one that you mentioned. Thank you.
I'll sort of piggyback on that. One of the things that I've done in some of my dance training is working with the structure that is specifically about, a group of dancers playing with soloing and then interrupting one another, and learning the feeling of a jolt of like, oh, I'm suddenly not the focus right now, and playing with the feeling of like, what is that like for me in my moving body? And there's a way that, I think your name is Christine, I can sort of connect to what you just said, of like, oh, an opportunity to be stepping outside of the trajectory that we thought we were going to have feels really useful. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's and that, to tie that in, that's the importance of presence awareness, balance, and flow, right? That's to master that is what you're saying. It's what you're saying is mastering on a certain level balance and flow, that you could be thrown off balance, but you can find your way back to balance. Constant flowing motion. Beautiful.
I would like to share something in relation to what Mieke said earlier about the music. This music was very beautiful to how you put it, Joe. And for me, it was actually, I realized opening my heart to me, because I was always trying to open my heart, but it didn't feel right. And now suddenly it clicked in me. It's just about opening my heart to me, and the rest will come. And so the music was there, and I didn't feel any need to connect with whomever actively, because it just arouses, it just unfolded, and I didn't feel the need to actively listen to their music, but just continue listening to mine and being open towards me, which made me soft towards whomever was there. And the adversary who came up, obviously there was a little bit of a shock at first, so I had to correct myself, or how do you say, reset myself. It's just a lovely experience, actually, just to be in myself and realizing that for me, that's really, at least my path to walk, is to every day strengthen my vision, heartfelt vision, and not be so busy with, although I am, but not be so busy with how people will respond to it or what happens in the world. And I'm involved with what happens into the world, but I strongly believe that the more and more people do heartfelt actions, the less energy goes towards those who don't. And at some point it will tilt. So for me, it felt more like, yeah, putting the attention to me without being me, as a tiny little individual. That was
Beautiful.
my experience.
Well, but then I would say that's advanced practice, in a sense, that you get to the point where you can be a benefit to others by just maintaining your own sense of music, is what you're saying. That's how I would interpret what you're saying.
That's yeah.
That's beautiful. Beautiful. Okay. Lovely. So we started our practice. We started with a motivation. We did our practice. We reflected. we'll do a dedication. I don't know if there's any announcements. Well, as always, thank you for coming, and feel free to keep coming back. If you want to make a donation for this, it's not mandatory, but it goes to the Fierce Civility Project, and it's now going towards the publication of the publishing of this book that I'm still working on. Tell people about this and invite people for this, and if there's other things. So Todd just put the link in the chat. And if you ever have any questions, just feel free to get in touch, Joe at fiercecivility.org, or any other email you might have of mine. Let's dedicate this to more of us stepping into trusting our own inner music in this time, and trusting that in some ways, if we can maintain our music, that's enough in a world where there's so much dissonance and chaotic noise, that our small, maybe silent or quiet music can reverberate in a way that we don't even know its effects for ourselves, for all beings on this planet, for the planet itself. And may our practices drop in a way where we really feel the trust of that, and can walk through the world with that with ease and spontaneity. And may all beings on this planet have enough fresh water to drink and food to eat. And may all governments and world leaders govern from a place of wisdom and compassion, as opposed to fear and greed. Okay, have a wonderful week. Great to see you all.
Thank you. Bye.
That was nice
Thank
to have you
you.
join us.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye. Thank
See you
you.
again.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Joe.